Around this time of year, quite a lot of people have started, or at least thinking of starting, of sowing seeds. If you follow my channel on a regular basis, that you'll know that I actually create a laminated sheet and make an entry for each different variety that I sow, giving it a unique number, which follows it through the growing season. I get asked quite a lot is how do I track this as they progress along, and also with successional sowing. Well, the way I do it is actually create a basic spreadsheet, and this then can tell me when I need to do multiple sowings or even need to reorder seeds. So it's very, very primitive, nothing too elaborate. If you do want to see something which is the bee's knees, pop over to Steve Richards over at the Seaside Allotment and Garden. He has created this, it's just fantastic system. It's done with a program called Airtable, and it's got the graphics on for each type of seed and flower and whatever is growing. In fact, I go too far to say that it's probably the best seed tracking database that I've seen, including anything which has been professionally written. So I'll pop over and see Steve if you want to have a look how that works. So back to this one here. I've created this in a spreadsheet, and I'll put a timestamp on it. For those of you that are familiar with how to create a spreadsheet, I'll put a timestamp on to where we actually start populating this with data. But if you've never used the software at all, no need to worry. We'll go through this step by step, and I'm convinced at the end of it you'll have something like this to look at. As you open the software, you'll see something very similar to this. I'm actually using Microsoft Excel, which is one of the popular programs. It's a purchased item, but if you do have an Apple computer, they include a free software called Numbers, and Google have a similar one called Sheets. And if you go out onto the web, you can look for LibreOffice and also OpenOffice. All these are free to use and have a very similar interface to it. So looking at this screen here, you'll see it like a grid pattern with a lot of squares on. Each one of these are selectable, so looking at A, B, C, D and so on, these are called columns, and going in the opposite way across, the numbered, click on those, these are referred to as rows. So by clicking on an individual box, this is called a cell, and it's purely identified by 11F. That one where would be 6C. It's similar to the Battleships game if you've ever played that. Now each of these columns are adjustable, so you can make them wider either by dragging them, or you can actually specify how wide you want them. And also the rows are the same, you can make the rows bigger. And again, you can specify the size of that. So we'll start and create our blank sheet to begin with. So we're going to be using a colour coordinated reference chart up here, so we won't be actually using the first cells. We'll go down to about row 8, and in there we'll start typing. I've typed in there ref for reference. If you click on the cell there, go up to the top, it'll actually tell you what the style of the writing is there. That's called the font, and if you click on down there, you can actually change it for all these weird and wonderful sizes. But I tend to stick to 1 or 2 fonts, and in this case I'm using a thing called Calibri Body. The number there next to it, the 12, that's called the point size, and that refers to how big the font is. So if we change that and moved up to 26, you can see how big it's gone. So 12. So first of all, we'll start putting some data in. So we've got A to A, we put reference in, click on the next cell, and we'll put in type. Then the next cell, we'll put in family. Then the next cell, variety. To make that look a bit bigger and stand out more, if you actually click on the 8, you'll notice the whole row is selected, and from there we can actually specify the size of the font, and I'll go on to 16. So anything that's typed into that row will automatically now be 16. All the others will remain as the standard size, which was 12. Right then, so all these are fixed at the same size at the moment. We can click on the box there that's selecting everything in that row 8. And if you look here, these are what they're called the justifications. There's the top, middle and bottom. At the moment that one's selected, which means you won't see it so much in here, but if you've got a small font in the book, big box, that would be right at the bottom. I tend to use that one and that one. If you notice the font jump across there, that there is left justified, that there is right justified. So if you click on there, it's the center. Now we don't always want, if you've only got one item to go in there, and move down, it looks a bit lost. So first of all, if you click on the column, again like we did on the line going across, if you click on the column, whatever you format, change in there, it'll affect everything in there. So we're going to have that centered again and centered on there. Now that looks a bit lost compared to how wide the cell is. So you can either go at the top, if you notice as you cross the line up there, that changed to arrows. You can click and drag that if you want, but a quick way of doing it is if you go up there and double click that line, it'll resize it to the whatever the biggest entry is in any of these cells. So if I put there lots of text, if I double click that cell there, you noticed it's made it wide as that text is, but we don't want to use that. So if you just select it, hit your delete key, it'll get rid of that text. Double click it again and it knocks it back. So I'll just remove those because those are not going to be required at the moment. So that there is going to be our main headings. Moving across from here now, I'm going to be looking at the progress throughout the year. And you could actually do these for every day in the year, so that would be January 1, 2, 3 and so on. But the way I tend to work, I work in months. And as a rule of thumb, I said this is not specifically accurate. I tend to work on 4 weeks for every month. So if you click on that cell there, hold your left mouse button down, keep it down and drag the mouse across, you can actually select as many cells as you want. We only want 4 cells to represent the week. So once you've done that, take your mouse off and you'll see that 4 there, there's a big box going around, means it's selecting 4 cells. So what we want to do now is group all those together to represent 4 weeks in January. So if you go up to there, there's a thing called merge and center. So if you click on that once, if you notice there that there has made them 4 cells into 1, although we've still got 4 underneath. Now we need to do this for another 11 times to represent the month. So we can, if you click in that box there, we can actually type in January and go to the next 4 boxes, left mouse down, drag across 4, merge and center. Now we can do February. So I'm going to continue on with that, then we'll come back to you. So that's all the months entered now. You might notice that it's actually gone off the screen, but not to worry. You can actually use these things at the bottom, these are called scroll bars, and it'll move it across. And there's also one down the side and all where you can move this up and down. There's another option here, which is a zoom, so you can make it look small, fit in, and go bigger. I'll keep it on the center for the time being, it doesn't matter anyway. So let's go back to where we started. To make these headings stand out a bit more, if you click on the row 8, it selects every one. And we'll just pop up to here and click on that B there, which makes it bold. And if you watch the text now as I click it, it's actually made it stand out a little more, which does help. So I am colourblind, so it does help me if I sometimes colour a cell to make it jump out more. So these four first type there, the reference, type, family and variety, are going to remain constant whichever way we orient the sheet. So if I just select that one, drag across, it's selected those four cells. If you look up to it, there's a little paint bucket. That there will actually fill whatever's selected with the relevant colour. So by clicking that small down arrow there, you've got a vast range of colours. I'll just use a little, I think it's the grey coloured there. Click that, click off the cells now, and you can see that there has actually made them stand out. So there we got the January. In these cells here, I'm actually going to be entering dates. So for the 4 weeks, the first week I'd use 1 to 7. The next cell I'd use 8 to 14. The next cell would be 15 to 21. And the next cell would be 22 to however many days are left in that month. So if I was going to be sewing a date on there, the 6th, as you can see, it's gone to the right and looks lost. So what I tend to do is to select the top for the first of the month and drag that. If you keep dragging along, right the way along, even off the screen, you'll notice the sheet will start scrolling. So you might go a bit fast. If you go fast, you can always come back. So we come back to the end of December there. First of all, we'll get the text centered and in line. Then the also thing there, we want to adjust the width of these columns so that it makes it more representable of the date in there. So if you get to format, column, width, if you pick, that's at the moment, that's 10 points wide. We want to go much smaller than that. So I find a 3 works good for me. So if you click on 3, watch the screen carefully and you'll see what happens. That's made all the weeks much smaller and acceptable for putting an entry in there, although it's kept the months together as a 4-week period. It's brought them in. So that's there. I'll just delete that 6 because it might be a bit confusing for the time being. So with all that work done now, it would be a tragedy if we could go and lose it all. So we better go and save it. You can click the little disk icon up the top if you've already done a save once, but first of all I go to File, Save As, and type in whatever you want to call it. In my case I'm going to call it Allotment, and hit Save. And if you notice at the top now, it's actually got Allotment as a title. So that's all done now. We're going to start entering some key identifiers in the top, some reference tabs. Now if I was going to put a big tab in there, the text will extend across these boxes, and by the time I click on there to fit it, this reference cell is going to be big again. I don't want that to move, so what I'm going to do is join 2 cells across and say merge, and do that for the rest of the ones across it. If you notice, I'm doing it one line at a time. If I was to select everything and say merge, it would make that one whole cell. So by going across horizontal, you've still got each row, but it's joining 2 cells together. So click on there, merge and center, merge and center, merge and center. And while we're doing that, we can actually set the font in there. So this time I'm going to select that one, drag down so all the cells are selected. We'll make this 16 font high. That's done that, and I'll just check what row height's on here. That's at 21, so I'll just make that one the same height again. We did adjust it. Just type in 21 there, so that should bring those all back in line with each other. We'll start making entries now into these identifiers. First of all, we'll put in not used. The next row will be no stroke low stock. If you notice the text now is spilled round, we'll adjust that a bit later on. Once we start putting entries in here, it'll make it much easier to adjust it. So I'll just click off there, then click back into row 3, then we'll put in sow, then the next row we'll put in plant out, then the next row will be harvest, spell it correctly this time, and I've actually got some giant veg seed, although I haven't sown any yet, so I'll just put a star in there and say giant. So that there has given me 1, 2, 3, 6 entries there. To make these stand out more like these, say, because they are going to be reference, if we select A1, drag down again to all of those there, just click on the B there, we'll make them bold. So we're getting a bit farther. If you notice now, when we move up, the screens actually disappear, which is no good. So what we need to do, we want to try and fix this area so that when we scroll the dates up, we've still always got the titles on. And it's also, again, if you want to move the months, if you want to look at December, the left hand side has more or less vanished. So we need to fix this area here. So if you click on the cell immediately below the January and to the right of what you want to keep there, so if you click on there, go into window, freeze pane, click on that. Now if you notice when we scroll up, the months stay the same, leaving the titles. Then if you want to look, say, for December, if you drag it to the left, it's actually keeping the names and descriptions, but you moved it into the months. So that's very useful when you got data. All these here will be entries for the different types of seeds and that I'm sowing. It seems quite a lot at the moment, but believe me, you can get well past the 100 mark. And if you're on like entry 95, you still can see what the name, type, variety it is, and move along like that. So we've got that far again. Remember to hit the save button. There's just a few more things I want to do now, and then our blank spreadsheet is ready for filling some data in. First of all, if we put some borders around, although we've got squares on here visible on the screen, when you actually print that, they won't print. It'll just be blanks, and if I put like a number in there, like number 8 and number 17 in there, that'll just show, 16, that'll just show numbers in fresh air when you print it under those headings. So we want to actually show squares. Now just delete those. So first of all, what I usually do is start at the top left hand corner, go across to December, and go down. As I said before, there's going to be, you'll be surprised how many, especially if you've got an allotment, how many entries you get. But for this case at the moment, we'll just do it down to 100. It's easy to extend this if you want to. So I'll go down to 100, go to the end of December, let your finger off there, and we go up to the top there. If you look at this little window here, drop that down, you can say all borders, and then it's actually created grid marks for each and every cell we've been using. We can do the same for this by selecting the top one, drag down, that's already got it there, but if you want to be sure, just go down and say all borders, and it's done it again. As I said, I'm colourblind, so I like to use colour coordination. I can see certain colours, so each one of these I'm going to give a colour. So for not used, go into our little paint bucket again, and I'm going to use probably number 3 grey. For low stock or no stock, that's a warning, so I'm going to fill that red. So we'll give that a yellow. Plant out, we could probably do that, I don't know, say a nice blue. Harvest, we'll give that a green, and I'll just leave the join thingy. So now we've got a set of colours which we can refer to on the chart, so I'll just save that again. To make these stand out a bit more, you can put bold lines into, so if you wanted to say to January, just pick the month of January, go down to row 100, I think we did, didn't we? And go up to our box again, click on that. If you put on there, it's got thick border. If you notice there, January standing out, and you could also do that for each cell if you wanted. So I'm going to go across row 8 up till December. Click on bold. So I'll reformat all these or add the borders around. You can do this at your leisure, and we'll come back when it's all been done. So if you've been following along, you should have something similar looking to this. Just zoom out a little so you can see it a bit better. And there you can see I've actually done each month with the heavy border, so they do stand out. And there we have it. There's one other thing I'd like to mention before we start adding actually entries in here, is when you want to do a sort on certain criteria with spreadsheets, they're called filters. And the quickest way to do it is if you do, we're going to filter along these different criteria along here. So if you click on row 8 in our case, go up to data, select auto filter. If you notice, there's little arrows appeared here along all the cells, and we'll look at those a bit later on. So as far as I'm concerned, that's our spreadsheet blank complete now. Do a quick save. Now if you plan on using this every year, you'll be pleased to know you don't have to go through this rigmarole every time you want to create one. You can actually save this as a blank master, or in this case it's called a template. So if you go up to File, Save as Template, you can actually call it whatever you want it to be. You can call it Allotment blank if you like. Save it wherever you want to, in desktop, documents, downloads, or whatever. And I'll do it onto my desktops. Click on save, and there. So you can always refer back to that. But the important thing is, when you come to do it again from a completely fresh start, say next year, if you get to File, into open your spreadsheet program, go to File, New, from Template, it'll actually fetch your blank template up straight away. Anyway, let's get back to now the exciting part. We're going to be starting adding some data. We'll just zoom the sheet up. Say with the Excel, you can actually use this little slider bar on the bottom right, or if you click in the plus button, it'll zoom it up in small increments. Never ever use the spreadsheet so you're peering into a cell, always go big. So the first thing I do is go through my seed box. I'll get each packet of seed and have a look at what it is and then type it in. So first of all, disregard the reference for the moment, we'll go back to that. So into the type, I'm going to go into vegetable, then I might go into what family it is. I'll say beetroot, and the variety is going to be called Alt ID. It's a popular one. Then if you look on the seed packet, now bear in mind any information on the seed packet is general. You must consider where in the country or even in the world you are located, what growing zone you're in, and also when you want to start sowing. So for me, I'll probably start sowing my beetroot round about the end of February. So we've got our key there, sow, which is yellow. So for beetroot bolt ID, go onto your paint bucket, pick yellow there. So I'm going to sow some first lot of beetroot towards the end of February. So click in there and you can drag across the boxes there, hit the paint bucket, and that's filled up with yellow. We'll go and then try something else. We'll look at vegetable again. What else shall we try? We'll try some cabbage. And we're going to say golden acre. Now I might be sowing that, say, anytime in March, so I can select 4 weeks in March and so on. I'll just keep putting some other vegetables down, then I'll come back to you. So a few more entries, say all these are fictitious. I've gone through there and put sowing dates. If you plan on doing successional sowing dates, you can actually pencil in, like there I've put beetroot bolt ID towards the end of February. I'm going to sow in anywhere between the middle and the end of the month. Then I'm going to sow some more in the beginning of May. So just colour these in when you plan to do your any successional sowing. As I say, these are fictitious. Bear in mind, as I said before, where you are in the country, and also check what the current weather is as well. So I'll just add a few more. I'll just type in this one there, vegetable. If you've noticed there also, I've typed in V straight away, vegetables come up because it knows it's been entered before. If that's what you want, if you just hit the enter, it actually puts it in automatically. So I'm going to put in there now celery, and add on there, the variety is called Latham Self Blanching. As you can see, that's gone way out the window. So anything what spills over the cell, if you go to the right of the cell, go right the way up to the top, double click the line, and it'll open the window up so it'll fit in the text, and that applies to any cell at all. You can, of course, like this where we've got it dragging out there, you can drag it out manually if you want, and go like that, and it fits the text in. Everything will adjust accordingly. So there we have it. There's the, just say, put your sowing period in. I could do anything from in January to sow the celery. So we've gone through our seeds now. Like I said before, we've considered where we're doing successional sowing, but also another thing to notice is check your seed packet. If you're going to do successional sowing for the year, have you got enough seed to cover you for the year? If not, just grab the cell, go across the name and fill that in red. So go to your paint bucket, go to the red button there, and that's filled that in. And I might be going there, what else we're going to do, multi-sowing, radish, sparkler, I've not got enough of that. So go through there, cover that, red, and you can keep on going like that, and go through your, say, your current seed list, then also below add any others that you've not got seeds of, which you want to grow for the current year. So I might be able to put in there, put another vegetable in. See, what we're going to say, I want to grow some cabbage. Cabbage already got, and the variety I want to grow is Tundra. And I'm going to be sowing that about May. So if I click through out May, fill that in full of yellow. So that's a reminder. So as the months go along, you can scroll along there against, and it still keeps the name of the plant you're sowing. I just thought Tundra, I've got no seed, so I need to highlight in red as well. Get into the paint bucket and we can fill that red. So I'll do a quick save on that. So this will take quite a while to fill in I mean, as I said before, it'll go out well over 100 probably if you got an allotment. Anyway, we mentioned before these filters. So you can actually do a search. You can sort, these are varieties there. And if you click on the down arrow, it gives the option to sort ascending. Click on that. And if you notice, it puts all the variety names in order. If you wanted to do the types of plant there, if you clicked on that ascending, if you notice there, it's put all the cabbages together. Or if you wanted to do the type in here, click on ascending, it's put the flowers and the vegetables, because the F becomes before the V. If you wanted to do the opposite way around, obviously you do descending. Now it is important that when you do these searches that you do have the filter covering every box. Otherwise it'll just sort on what's filtered. If you didn't have any filters on there, that data would stay the same and it wouldn't actually sort it. So make sure you've got your filter on every one included in there. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll add a couple more entries. Right, I'll put those in purely because although I've got the seed, I'm not going to grow them. So I'll just select the 2 rows, drag down. It's got not used, so I'll go up to there and fill it with the grey. And that there is showing not used. Right, looking at the other key factors in here, you can actually fill them out. You can use a seed packet as I said before, but that's only a guide. So with the cabbage, we may want to be starting planting those out into the allotment come the 2nd week of April over a 3-week period. So any time there, so we'll fill those squares in there with the blue. And then we expect to harvest them. When do we want to harvest them? End of July into August, and that'll be green. To be honest, I don't really use especially the harvest one, and sometimes I'll use the planting out as a reminder, but definitely not as a Bible thing to follow. So, but those there are key things to look at. So we've got these red ones there. So if you go up to variety, click on the down arrow. If you notice now, there's a thing called by colour. Now we've got a red in there and a grey. So if we click on the by colour and select cell colour and go to red, it's brought all the red varieties together. So straight away we've got collective group there, which we know we've got low or no stock, so we need to order those for the rest of the season. And the other thing is, if you've got lots of seeds in the box, if you go to the filter again, by cell colour and light grey, you can see straight away those are the vegetables that we're not going to be sowing for the year. So if we wanted to do the vegetables, we'd click on there and just do say sort ascending or descending if you want the vegetables in order. I'm now just going to add a few more, so we're going to vegetables again. So I've added a few more, and again with all these I want to sow them in at least the first 3 weeks of January, so they'll give them yellow. Right, I've actually done these. The first one I'm going to say I sown that on the Kelsey onion I sowed on the 6th of January, so I put 6 in there. I might have sown the mammoth on the 8th, well that's into week 2, so click on the 8th. And the pepper, probably done that on the 9th. Now where we're going to, looking at the cell on the side, is the reference number. If you watch the channel regularly, you'll know that I do a sowing list, a master sowing list, which is in the greenhouse, and I'll give each seed an identification number. So the Kelsey is number 1 and alpha on my list. The Robinson Mammoth is number 2, and on the the California window, I'm going to say, without looking at the list, I'm going to say this is number 5. It may not be. So there's my reference numbers to the master list I want to do. And again, you can actually do a search on there by ascending, and straight away to list all in numerical order my master sewing list. So straight away then I've got my master sewing list, even though I'm not looking at the actual list in the greenhouse. So that's another good thing you can look at. The also is when I've actually sewn, although I put the onion there to be sewn within that 3-week period, because it's actually been sewn, I can actually remove the yellows off there. So just by selecting them, go to the paint bucket and go up to the top there, it says no fill, that will remove the colour from any cell. So by ticking that there. The other good thing that this, as each week passes, I tend to fill the top of the week in with a colour, and I tend to use black. So say we was on the 3rd week of January, them 3 would be filled in, that one there and that one there. So by quickly looking down your list, each cell which has got a colour, there should be an entry in there. So if I'm looking in there, this is the date we've achieved, there's 3 blank cells there, so I'm late. Fortunately, because it's celery, I've got another last shot at it, so I need to sew that by that week. Other things to mention just before we finish this off. As I mentioned before, we've got the red there, which we did a search on and indicated what seeds we need to order. Obviously, as the seeds arrive, just select the cell there up to the top and select no fill, and that then removes the need to order anymore. And one other thing, if you look at the bottom of here, there's a little tab, and that's the proper name for it. Each worksheet has a tab, and that's an identifier. You can have these sheets, you can add dozens and dozens, I think 256, you may be able to do that more. All you need to do is click on the plus sign there, and it'll add a new sheet. But if you go down to the one you're working on, if you do a right mouse button on it there, you get a little menu come up. First of all, you can rename it, do it whatever you know. I'm going to call this seed tracker. Hit enter, and there it is. And also going back again, right mouse button to get the menu up. You can actually put the tab colour, you can colour it whatever colour you want. And in fact, on the other side there is my master list. If I click on that, that's another sheet behind it, and that's the one I use to create my sowing index when I'm in the greenhouse actually sowing seeds. So if you right click on that tab colour, we could change that to something like a blue. So there we have the lists, and you can just flick between 1 and 2. I hope you found that useful. Before we go, this is a copy of my actual live list for this year. As you can see, I've got quite a few vegetables down. Got the celery there, I'm still waiting for those that are on order. My peas I usually get from the market, they've not got those in yet. And also potatoes, I need to get those ordered. Quite a few vegetables. There's quite a lot of flowers I'm sowing yet. I've not actually put the sowing details down, so it can take quite a bit of time, but that's what I was mean about my sowing index there. If I quickly go up to there, click on there and send into sort, so that there ties in exactly with my master sowing list, which is in the greenhouse. I've got a few other tabs along there. There's their plot, if you look on there, that there's just basically a copy of my layout on the allotment. If I want to print that off on quickly, I could just do that on an A4 sheet, take that out of the allotment and start scribbling in what I want to sow. Because I work on a 4-year plot rotation, usually the crops in there will move to this one there, that'll move to there, and that one will come back around to there. That's the way it usually works, and so far that's been quite successful for me. The other thing I find useful now, I've got a thing, I'm just doing it again, this is taking a long time, it's episode content, and these are the videos that I've put up on YouTube, and I've just put keywords in which is featured in there, because quite often I'll get a viewer leave a comment or something saying which video was it where you shown where so and so, and without ploughing through 250 odd videos, it can be quite a long search. So by doing this, if I wanted to say, where's the video where you did your flying the drone or something, so if I go up to search, find, and I know the drone's called a Spark, so if I say it's a DJI Spark, find next, click on that, straight away it comes up with 168, and there it is, DJI Spark. That does help, but it's good practice when I've uploaded the video to actually fill this in, but I'm trying to backtrack through all the other catalogue stuff, but it does take quite a while anyway. So that's about it for this one. I hope you got some benefit out of it, and for those of you that are absolutely new to spreadsheets, I hope it wasn't too intimidating and you managed to follow along. If you do have any queries at all, just pop a comment below and I'll try my best to answer it. Spreadsheets are very, very powerful tools, and we've merely scratched the surface of what these are capable of. However, if we did have gone any deeper, I think it'd have been far too overkill, and for what we've got there, there's plenty for what I need. You can of course use this as a base and work and modify it to suit your own needs. You could of course add another column in there and say put the name of each individual seed supplier, or at the end of the year add another column down there and actually rate each crop, how it's performed throughout the seasons, 1 to 10, and they're always good to look back on over the previous years and maybe lessons learned as well. So that's about it. Many thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon next time I'll be out on the plot. Until then, take care all, and bye for now.